Hello.
It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you. You're looking fabulous.
Well, thank you.
Tell us about the new season. Whatever you want to tell us.
Season 15 of Relative Race. Yeah, it kicks off Sunday, March 16th, 9 p.m. East Coast time. 9 p.m. Yeah, on the East Coast, 6 on the West Coast. And the 4 teams are unbelievable, like unbelievable. One item that we're really excited about is one of the teams is Hispanic, Latino.
Nice.
And that is something we've been trying to get for a long time. Those of you, pretty much everybody here, understands that we don't have as many records here in America on Latinos. And so that's been a little tougher for us to cast Latinos. But we have a really great Latino team. I mean, like, especially David, the teams have been announced by BYUtv. So I actually just called my office on the way down and I said, have the teams been announced, by the way? I said, can I talk about the teams? So David is, you know, I have some favorites. They're all kind of all like my kids, except for those that are my age. And David is, this is Team Black. He is, oh my gosh, I don't want to get emotional. He is so raw and real on this season that you'll just be going, oh my word. Yeah, he's tremendous. And his niece comes out with him. There are some kind of like whoa moments where you go, whoa, what just happened?
Are we going to be crying a lot?
You will be crying a lot.
Okay.
You will be crying a lot. We have a mother-daughter team from Utah. Very interesting because they're very open about one of the reasons they're going on the show is they wanted to find out if they could figure out what's happened with their hair. The mother, the one daughter, and one of her sons all has a hair condition that requires them to wear wigs.
Oh.
And they want to know, like, medically, where does that come from, right? And you'll have to watch to see if they figure that out. There's Team Red has a team member on that team that was actually on the show as a receiving family.
Oh, cool. We've been waiting for that to happen.
There is a very interesting moment that happens where it gets switched around. One of the teams that was on the show, they are now a receiving relative.
Fabulous.
It's really interesting.
Yes.
We've changed the format a little bit, as we always do. You know, one of the things that viewers have always said is that they wanted all the teams to get to day 10, right?
Yes.
I would get like hate mail when a team got off the show. Dan, how could you do that? And I'd always say, I didn't do anything.
It's the show.
they don't do very well at these things, reading maps and figuring out gameplay. But you know, BYUtv, the network, received apparently a lot of feedback that, you know, we want them all to get to day 10. So we've come up with that really cool weighted system that they get to day 10.
Yes.
And it's pretty cool. And you know, we always have a loose theme every season.
Yep.
There's a really cool theme this season.
Are you going to tell us?
Yes, okay. I will. Okay. I will tell you. I will tell you the theme, because the opening scene, except for the weather, it was going to be amazing. It's still pretty cool, but you will see I look like a drowned rat. It was raining pretty good. The theme this season is family that we know or have never known often has served our country in the military.
Oh, thank you for doing that.
The military ties that run throughout these teams and the relatives they meet are absolutely amazing. We start in a very big way. The biggest of its kind in the world is where we start.
Okay.
I won't tell you what that is.
We can figure that out.
And where we end for day 10 is my favorite thing we have ever done. Like, ever. Now, I personally I fly out and I see what we're doing and the locations, right? And when we went out to day 10, where this season's day 10 will be, I did not want to leave that place. I was like, I just want to stay here and play. So it's it's big boys and girls toys. Let's put it that way.
Yay.
But it has it leans heavily back into military, and it is really cool. So
every year you say this is the best season ever.
You know, this is a really, really, really good season. I mean, it's really, really good. And of course, we're getting ready to film season 16, the first couple of weeks in April. And as I said, we have a contract for season 17, so we'll be out again in the fall. We hope it continues. We love doing the show. The most important thing about the show is why it was created, which is literally to bring families together, to discover families and bring them together. As many of you know now that are here with your iPhones on, you know, I've been doing this for about 40 years exactly now. And you know, this show, when we were asked to create something about finding families, originally for Ancestry, DNA, when they launched, it is the most powerful, overwhelming, challenging, yet gratifying show that I've ever been a part of. It is it is so overwhelming when I do those live Zoom calls every night. I mean, I know who they met, right? I know.
Yes.
And then
That it
you
still gets to you.
see what happens, and you're sometimes just going, I can't believe this moment. It is the power of family. And when I am lucky enough to go speak, in fact, this woman that brought me in, she goes, oh, you're coming to speak at my stake in 2 weeks. No,
nice.
Okay. So, you know, when I go and speak, one of the first things I ask, whatever the audience is I say, by show of hands, how many people here know who their mother and father are? By show of hands, how many people know if you have brothers and sisters, uncles and aunts, cousins? Do you know your grandma and grandpa? And almost everybody raises their hands, because most of us all do. But we now have over 3,000 people per season applying to be on the show. And when we first started the show, I literally called family and friends for season 1 saying, does anybody know anybody that would do this crazy experiment that we're doing? And at that time, I think Ancestry, when we met with them, if I remember right, because they had just launched, I think they had 700,000, it might have been less than 700,000 DNA samples submitted to their bank. I can't speak for them. I know several years ago when I spoke to them, they said that every month they were getting 2 million people per month, you know, adding to their bank. Now we have expanded out. We use 23. We use everybody, right, to try to find family. But it is wonderful what technology has done to enable us to have all of these wonderful options to find families. When people ask what my company does, I tell them it's this simple. We tell stories. And the most gratifying stories that you can tell are people who know absolutely no one. And then a knock on the door reveals their mother, or their father, or their brother, or their sister, or a grandma, or a grandpa. It is overwhelming. And the beauty is, since this show is completely unscripted, our audiences get to see it. It's not like we say, cut, can you come back to the sidewalk and be a little more emotional for us? You at the door, Mom, could you cry maybe for it? I mean, that's not the show. As you know, we have had some challenging moments on the show because it's real. We've had some tough subjects that we've now been able to address, including participants on the show that were really upset and angry when they met their relatives. But what happens after the show, I wish I could speak more about that. The one that I'm thinking of right now, where it was very clear that that person was very angry meeting his grandmother.
Yes.
That young
Yes.
man and his grandmother are as close as anybody and any grandmother can be. And those stories abound.
Yeah.
So, okay, that was a long talk. Next question.
Love it. Hey, in doing the show, have you been able to have any family discovery experiences of your own? You're so close to it.
You know, when we used to have the booth here at RootsTech, and when I used to attend RootsTech, things have just changed. It's not on our part. We'd love to be here, just for the record. But you know, they had that binder, right?
Yes.
And when I was in London, so my family, the actual correct pronunciation of my last name is Debenham. And it was my grandmother that said, no, we're American, we're going to say Debenham, right? But the correct pronunciation is Debenham, and it's very much, my family's all from all of Great Britain. So Ireland, Scotland, and the UK, right? When we went over to RootsTech London, and we still have that, I can't tell you how many people came up going, you know, like, you get Scottish people going, you know, I'm telling you, lad, you are my 12th cousin from the 4th side of the family. My mom and pa, we're all the same, you know, and you're going, we are? I don't even know what you said. It's my bro. You know, you're American now. I'm like, well, yeah, I've been there for a while. But I haven't had any major discoveries. I'm one of those that have been very lucky, very blessed. Wonderful mother and father. Amazing family. In fact, we all just got back from Egypt and Turkey with all of my siblings and their spouses, and you know, so I know everybody. And we have family reunions. The Debenham family reunion that goes through my grandma and grandpa, and of course they've long gone. But that family reunion has about 260 people from just the Utah area. And then my mother and father, before my father passed away, he was an attorney, so he put in his will that we must continue the family reunions. And you know, as we have our children get married, grandchildren, and now great-grandchildren for some of my siblings, you know, there's like 90 of us, or no, I think there was 110 of us just from my mother and father. So I'm very lucky. I know all my family. However, when I come to RootsTech, I find people that come up and say, you don't know this, but I'm your 12th cousin. And I'm like, I did not know that. It is so wonderful to meet you, cousin. I have had several people email me envelopes at my office with some really fascinating stuff that say, hey, I'm your 4th cousin over here, or your 3rd cousin, and here's a whole bunch of interesting articles I thought you might enjoy. So absolutely being a part of this amazing project, this amazing show, has opened up other doors for me personally as well.
I love that. Thank you so much.
So you talked about how there's been difficult, like we've seen the difficult seasons where, you know, like you said, the anger, or, you know, maybe people are unsure. Have you, I'm sure you have had people that didn't want to participate, that you found relatives that didn't want to participate. Were they just absolutely against, like, that's not a part of my life, or was it, I just don't want to do this on camera?
Both. Unfortunately, it is, the majority of that is the mothers. And you know, we get it, right? They feel ashamed sometimes, or they don't want the secret out. It's been a secret still. Or they're afraid that their children won't want them. And then to a much smaller degree, it's the fathers, but much smaller percentage. The fathers, about 90+% of the time, have no idea that they have a child, or they have this child, you know. And fortunately, about 90% of the time, they're like, I have another daughter? That is so cool. And you've actually seen often on the show, the father and his wife, that is not the biological mother, just welcomes that additional child into their family. So we do have that, and if that, whenever that happens, we move on to another team, because that's such a crucial part of the show that they meet a mother or a father. Now, I will say that there is a mother that is on this upcoming season. I don't think we said it on the show, so let's just say that she had a very serious medical condition that she really wanted to be on the show, but she absolutely could not be on camera. And if I told you what it was, you would understand. Like, we understood. We were like, oh wow, we get it. There was cancer involved that had done some disfiguration. And so, but she wanted to be on the show, and she actually is there's correspondence, but she's not personally, her face is not on the show. So we anytime that we can, and sometimes you hear us say, here's a letter from your mother. She doesn't want to be on the show. She doesn't want to meet you with 53 cameras, but she does want to meet you. And they've written a letter, and they allow us to read that on the show. So there's all these different scenarios. But I will tell you, more and more, especially when we send them segments of the show or entire episodes, people will look at it and go, oh, so this isn't shock and awe, and where it's like, no. This is all about love. This is all about forgiveness. This is all about acceptance. This is all about family being together, and in my heart, forever. It is the greatest thing I've ever done in 45 years of television production, to think that this show changes families' lives for generations. And it's happening already, because we get all the feedback of people saying, we just had our first family reunion, and it's going to happen every year, and we can't wait. So, yeah.
So you mentioned just now that either they need to meet either a mother or a father. So
The network would prefer that.
Okay. The reason I ask is because there are children of divorce, or children in circumstances where they're only children but they're now adults, and they don't necessarily have first cousins, and would like, through genealogy, to meet more people. Did the show ever consider doing something like that? Is it possible
To have children under the age of 18?
No. They're only children by birth, so they don't have relatives. So they're pretty much alone in the world.
But they know their mother and father?
But they know their mother and father.
No. At this point,
It has to be. Okay.
well, I'm just, and again, this isn't, we have a mandate, I don't want to say mandate. We have an agreement, we have contracts, and we have production agreements with the network, and that's with any network that we work with on any of our shows. And the network has certain things, they're the ones paying for it, so they have the ability to say, look, we really want this. It's one of the reasons that we went into what were called stranger teams, because they wanted to try to have mothers and fathers every day as much as possible on the show. We found that not to be the best thing for the show, and so you've probably noticed that we don't have that a lot anymore. I think it might not happen ever again, but who knows? But at this point, if somebody knows their mother and father, and we get applications that are just what we have people that say, look, I know my mother and father, but and they died, and I want to know if there's somebody else. And it's like, that's not what our show's about.
Okay, so there's basically another market out there for a show like that.
There might be.
Potentially, because you're focused on
that's a pretty narrow market.
It is. Well,
whereas our market's a pretty wide market.
I'm not going to debate it with you. I'm just saying.
I don't want to debate it with you either.
I'm thinking of clients. I'm thinking of some of the work that I've done, and there are a lot of people who are looking for a family, but they know their mother and father are deceased. So it's good to know that you're focused on adoptees only.
Well, we're not focused on adoptees. As you know, we've had people where the parent killed the other parent. Yeah. We've had all kinds of stories. Yes. So they're not all adoptees. Some are abandoned, and many of our families, our people that are on the shows, have aged out of foster care. So they were never adopted. That's a lot of our stories. Yes. So they're not all adoptees, but.
Okay, I'm thinking through all of the teams that I know. Dan, I've been following this since the beginning, so there's a lot there. I guess when you're saying you had one parent kill the other, did she know? Wasn't that Rebecca's situation where her father had killed her mother?
Well, I can't speak to legal.
Well, okay.
I can tell you, he's serving a life. He's serving a life sentence in prison.
But did she not know both parents, or was it just that she had been separated from
That's so long ago, and that Rebecca would have to speak to all of that.
Okay.
So
I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We have 5 minutes, guys.
Anybody else?
Anybody else didn't get to ask a question?
So Dan,
Yes.
we really love watching the show, especially the challenges.
And they're getting. The last 3 seasons, we have dialed in on our challenge coordinators, those that concept, create, and test, and then go out and build the challenges. I think the challenges in the last 3 seasons have been amazing. And they're, if I was from the South, I'd say they're good ones. That's what they are, they're good ones. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, especially I like the rubber chicken ones.
Don't we all?
If you knew somebody in my office, he absolutely about chokes every time we say, we want to bring the chickens back. Well, since you mentioned that, I can tell you the chickens are coming back in
Yes.
an episode of this upcoming season.
Nice.
Right. One question I have is, I know there's several seasons where people have not been able to compete in a challenge because of weather events or something like that, the tornado warnings or storm warnings.
Well, I will tell you, it's interesting that you're asking these things. Have you seen this season somehow that I don't know how you've seen it? There is something that takes place this season that has never happened before. And when I got the call in the office, I was mortified.
Oh gosh.
I mean, it shook me. And when you see the video that we have, it is, your jaws will just drop. You will just go, it was very, very serious.
Oh gosh. Oh wow.
So I'm sorry I've interrupted you again. So
No problem. But how do you handle that? Do they get the timeout time, or how does it handle when they're?
you'll see how it's handled this season.
Okay.
Yep, you will see.
Okay.
And it's not something we like to do, but we try to be as fair as possible. And it's the only way that we could figure out how to be as fair as possible.
Yeah.
And you'll see how it's handled, because it was unbelievable what happened.
Oh wow.
I think we're out of time. This is our last one. Okay. My question is just really quick. With upcoming seasons, you said you know that you have at least through 17 right now. What's one thing that hasn't happened yet that you'd love to see happen?
Great question.
Wow, that's a really, really good question. Well, on the light side, like I said, this upcoming season, day 10, was one of the coolest things I've ever wanted to happen. You'll see what that is. And that is a great question. What's one of the things that hasn't happened that I would like to have happen? I know exactly what it is. What it is. That's a great question. I want to do an international version of Round Race. And I have been
Begging.
I have been almost begging, but I have been asking for years.
Yeah.
So, and the obvious one is the UK. We've had 3 different countries reach out to us asking if they could actually have the rights for a relevant race in their country. The UK, Germany, and Australia.
Wow.
And, obviously the easy ones for us to go would be Australia or the UK, because of the language. So that is the one thing I would like to have happen, is to have us go to another country, even if it's only for a day or 2,
Yeah.
and finish in the United States, or start in the United States and go over there. But I would love to see this show, because the United States does certainly not have they're not the only country in the world that everyone's looking for family. We all need family, and it is everywhere around the world. And I will tell you, because I happen to be of a certain faith, that I am on my knees praying that this show will find its way to all these other countries because of the good that it does. And you know what? I hope those prayers are answered.
All right.
Fabulous.
We'll start writing letters.
Exactly. Exactly. Tell us who. Yeah, exactly. Thank
Thanks,
you, Dan.
guys. It's so fun to see you all.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad that you guys